Greetings and salutations, everyone. Once again, welcome. We're just going to take a couple minutes before we get started. So, again, make sure to get your refreshments, and it's a pleasure to be able to have all of you here. Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the 2022 Racial Justice Awards Night, presented to you by Urban Alliance on Race Relations. I'd just like to take the time right now to acknowledge that I'm coming from you, from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Now, we acknowledge the land, which we would like to remind everyone that this is not enough to just acknowledge. We can't do the pacifier projects. That's not what Urban Alliance is about. That's not what the awards recipients are about. We need to make sure that we do more than just reflect. We want to be able to find out the ways that we can provide solidarity in the many intersections and in the many ways that we can provide that support to continue to support Indigenous communities, reconciliation, and Indigenous resurgence. I also want to be able to make sure that we take time out at some point during tonight to be able to think about our connection to this land, whether it was, for example, with my family being brought here and ancestors being brought because of the transatlantic slave trade, thinking about the connections that have actually brought us to this land and to be able to remember about what came before us in that respect. Thank you once again to all of you for joining us and celebrating the groups and individuals who work towards racial equity in our communities. Now, as a brief introduction, as far as those of you that do not know me, my name is Esquire Johnson. I will be one of the hosts for the evening. You'll be able to meet my co-host Jada later on. Now, a little bit about me. I am one of the proud active board members of Urban Alliance on Race Relations. I'm also a senior consultant at Encobia Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization that provides educational supports to African, Caribbean, and Black families within the Greater Toronto Area, and at the same time provides support to organizations that support these communities. I'm also the co-founder and managing director of the Fatherhood Initiative, which we provide mentoring supports and parenting programs for men and fathers throughout the province of Ontario. Now, a lot of my work over the past 10 years has been grounded in anti-racism and anti-oppression. I've done facilitating with Harmony Movement. I've served as co-chair for the Community Advisory Committee that supports the Children's Aid Society of Toronto. And I was also the former program coordinator for Young and Potential Fathers, a nonprofit that ran the first and only father-focused family resource center of its kind in Canada. So understanding the importance of racial equity and racial diversity within these respects, it is important with regards to pushing the work forward, which is what drove me to become a board member for Urban Alliance on Race Relations. And at the same time, while this work can be tireless, while this work can be thankless in a lot of ways, it's extremely important for us to be able to take the time that we can right now in order to recognize and take a breath and see the work that we've been able to collectively do. Now, we have an exciting program lined up for you tonight. We'll be presenting awards that recognize the leaders in our community, empowering others in 7 fields, as well as an Urban Alliance on Race Relations Agent of Change Award to a recipient who was a trailblazer in the fight for racial equity and justice. We'll also have a chance to hear from 4 incredible local performers. Now, whether you're into traditional poetry, the arts of spoken word, or you're like me and you love R&B, I know for a fact that you will love these upcoming artists throughout the night. We'll have an opportunity to celebrate the achievements of our award recipients and wrap up the year. And we also hope tonight to recommit ourselves to standing in solidarity and strengthening our allyship for the year to come. Now, with that being said, I'm going to actually take a break from all of this talking and actually pass it over to my big brother, Nigel Barif, president of the Urban Alliance on Race Relations Board of Directors, to say a few words. Nigel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Esquire. I love how you throw that old man thing at me all the time, but I'll take it. I'll own it. There's a few of my elders on here, right, Kirk? That I can throw that off, add that off to also. But thank you everyone for making it here. We are so excited. Like tonight's a celebration of all of your work that you've been doing. Urban Alliance, we've been doing this work for almost going on 50 years. It's coming up soon. And it's always been about how do we create a more just and sustainable society. So to have a night where we get to celebrate it with all of you, our allies that are fighting. We know that right now there are, some right-wing forces, right-wing politicians that are currying their favor, trying to divide and divert us, attacking us just because of who we love or the color of our skin or because of our postal code. But what I know, and what I know all of you on this call know tonight, is that when we unite, when we come together, whether you are director, superintendent, whether you are a trustee, whether you are an MPP, whether you are an ED of a nonprofit, whether you are just here as a volunteer who understands that it's our responsibility to leave this place better than which our children had it, we know that together we are the mighty force. We've seen this examples in our past. It's on our elders and our ancestors' shoulders we stand on here tonight. So we are so glad you're here. Many of my fellow board members are on here. Staff is looking at me like you don't have time to read out all their bios. They come together with us together once a month to make sure that this work happens. They volunteer their time from many different parts of our society. And also a big shout out to Nathan and his staff for the wonderful work they continue to do. So thank you very much for making it here tonight. So looking forward for a wonderful evening. And I'll throw it back to my little brother Esquire to take us through the rest of the night. Thank you. One love.
Thank you so much, Nigel. Definitely appreciate your presence and always appreciate your words. Now, with that being said, I have the esteemed pleasure to introduce my co-host at this time. Nsheda, would you like to take it away?
Yes, hello everyone, welcome. I am Nigel, I'm Esquire's a great co-host, Jada Kadas, and I am the Anti-Racism and Anti-Oppression Education Institute and Canadian Communications Coordinator here at Urban Alliance. I'm very excited to be here. Events like this are so important to me and to the work that I've done and I do and I continue to do. Over the years, I got my Bachelor of Arts from Carleton University, and is there where I started my love for anti-racism education. It's where I learned a lot and I was pushed to do this work. And since then, I've worked on many grassroots projects in a lot of organizations and met some great people and great community. I'm a person who believes we put people in community first. And I think it's so important, the work that we are all part of and what we do. Sometimes it seems small, but the things that we do really change people's lives. And that's just the center of a lot of what I believe and a lot of what I do. I'm a facilitator, I teach workshops, I coordinate events, I work on educational content, and this is something I hope to be doing for a long time. I essentially think it's important we come together, we encourage each other, we honor each other and the work that we do. And nights like this, it makes me inspired. So excited to be here. We have a great program coming up. I will now turn it on to Esquire to introduce our first performance for the night.
All right. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first performer to our virtual stage, Shadia Adid. Now, quick aside about Shadia is a spoken word artist and a scholar activist. She writes, teaches, and performs poetry, and her work has been featured on CBC, Audible, and at multiple arts festivals. As a first-generation Black Muslim Canadian, Shadia uses the power of storytelling to reclaim her narrative and gradually unravel the apathy and ignorance that uphold injustice. Without further ado, Shadia Adid.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for that beautiful intro, and thank you for inviting me here today. I have two poems that I'd like to share with you to open up the night, and I'll just go one after the other. And this first one is titled Butterflies. A list of things that gives you butterflies. When you finally apply for that dream job, when you join the bandwagon and invest in your first stock, when your friends hype you up in the comments of your new selfie, when you get off a plane just before reuniting with your family, when you're randomly selected at the airport, they tell you to patch your hijab, then swab for bomb residue on your hands. When you cross the border and they say that you look like a refugee, they're unsure about your documents, you could be sneaking into their country. When a cop car comes along and despite being innocent, you trace back your steps, analyze where you might have gone wrong. When you enter a store and you feel this hot heat on the back of your neck, the clerk watches you. For a while, you can't breathe. When you tell a guy you're married, but he doesn't see a ring, ignores the hint, calls you a tease. When you enter an elevator and the man who was following you home does too, the doors close, you can't leave. But then the butterflies fly away, almost as soon as they came. As soon as the cop car moves forward, and you leave the store and you get your luggage back, you safely make it to your floor. Hyper-surveillance is something that I wish I could opt out of, but it's a part of every day, like eating lunch at noon, like forgetting to unmute on Zoom. It's just a minor inconvenience. It's just a part of the Black Muslim girl experience. For some, stares prompt questions like, is there something in my teeth? Does he like me? For us, it's more like, is it my Blackness today or my Muslimness? Or how easy it would be to take advantage of me? Fear is a sharp knife that travels up your body until it settles somewhere deep, leaving a trail of scars from anxiety. Like a parasite feeding off negative energy, doesn't hesitate to make everyone your enemy. Fear is the most abusive warden, keeps you caged, dares you to escape, and then reminds you of your place. Fear wants to be heard, wants to be consoled, wants to believe the story that it was told, and although you're no criminal, you're no victim. You internalize these roles. You're the one that doesn't belong, misplaced. You're the glitch in the algorithm, a mistake. So in order to placate those with more power over you, you step into respectability, minimize everything and anything. You apologize for your existence, call it betrayal or a survival mechanism. Conform to the behavior that they feel entitled to, that helps them feel safe, while simultaneously being and feeling unsafe. But hey, at least the butterflies eventually fly away. So that was Butterflies, and it's one of my favorite poems, actually, just because I think it's just a reality. All of the instances in the beginning were things that actually happened to me. And I think it's important to talk about these things, to normalize them, but also to recognize like the resilience, right, that Black Muslim women, Black women have. And so this next piece that I'll end with and hopefully jump off with the evening is called Climate Justice. And just a reminder for all like my environmental co-creators and researchers and activists that climate justice is always racial justice and vice versa. So this is called I Believe in Climate Justice. From the soaring birds and trees to the dance of ocean tides, I believe that we should all be afforded the dignity to live full and healthy lives, free from pollution, violence, and cultural genocide, where we collectively safeguard the lands in which we reside. I believe that climate justice requires accountability from those who exploit people and planet for financial prosperity, from governments, industries, and institutions who spread propaganda and glorify false solutions. I believe that BIPOC people should not only be well represented in our movements, but are fairly engaged from inception to execution, because the communities that are at the front line of injustice should be at the front lines of decisions regarding natural resources, of infrastructure and land use planning, and alternative energy projects that could harm their families. I believe that Indigenous sovereignty requires land back and reparations. I believe that solidarity across movements are essential for long-term liberation. I believe that we have a responsibility to do more within our capacities, to come from power on an ongoing basis and be mindful of all our relationships. Or just like the actors who pillage our beloved ecosystems, we risk reproducing colonial, capitalist, and racist systems. I believe that our movements have the potential to prioritize an ethics of care, to acknowledge that we all uniquely have something we bear, to reduce harm, promote hope, and be in relation to one another, to recognize that we are all in this together. I believe in climate justice, and I believe you should too. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Jadia. You opened up beautifully. What a great way to open up. That was great. So next we would like a minute just so we could thank all our sponsors without whom this evening would not be possible. We like to show a short video to acknowledge the sponsors of our Racial Justice Awards night. And now I would like to welcome the Senior Program Manager of the Diversity Institute, Nancy Mitchell, who will be saying a few words.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. And those poems were incredible. Thanks for opening up the session with that. So my name is Nancy Mitchell, and I'm pleased to be here to represent the Diversity Institute this evening. For those of you who aren't familiar with our work, the Diversity Institute is housed within Toronto Metropolitan University's Ted Rogers School of Management. And we conduct research on the needs of people in all their diversity, and in many cases, the experiences of racialized communities in accessing meaningful services and opportunities, breaking down biases, finding the real levers for change, as well as supporting organizations in intentional work towards anti-racism, which is why we're so proud to be a longtime partner of the Urban Alliance on Race Relations. And we've accomplished some really meaningful work together. Projects like the 360 Project on addressing racism in Toronto, which analyzes the needs, the challenges, and the opportunities facing racialized youth in Toronto. And more recently, our work on the Media Bias and Underrepresented Groups Project, which analyzes the impacts of discrimination and media for racialized and equity-deserving groups. I will also say that so much of the amazing work that's being done by community across the ecosystem and by people who are here today is really catalyzing and complementing a widespread movement that's centered on recognizing the need for supports. And I think institutions like the Government of Canada are stepping up in recognition through initiatives like the 50-30 Challenge, which is really aiming to achieve gender parity and diversity on boards and in senior leadership across the country. And I love what Nigel said earlier about coming together and making things move together. And so I know that a lot more work is needed in this space, but I'm really optimistic about this collaboration and partnership, and really making intentional efforts towards the goals of anti-racism, building up communities, providing the supports that people need, et cetera. But tonight is really about celebrating the individuals that are making change within their communities and across Canada. And we're thrilled to honor tonight's recipients and really champion the work that you do. So congratulations to all those who are here today and to the award recipients on your very well-deserved recognition. And thanks for having us here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Nancy. Next, we would like to take the time to hear from one of our platinum sponsors, the Canadian Race Relations Foundation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Lee, and I'm the Director of Partnerships and Research at the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. On behalf of the CRRF, I bring warm greetings to the Urban Alliance on Race Relations Racial Justice Awards Night. The CRRF is honored to support this initiative through our National Anti-Racism Fund. I would like to acknowledge that the land I'm speaking from is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. I share this both to reflect on the lands I'm settled on and the immense privileges this has afforded to me, and also to affirm the inherent treaty rights of all Indigenous peoples who have cared for and continue to care for these lands. It also serves as a personal commitment to the continued work with Indigenous nations and peoples to combat racism and mobilize action on the path towards reconciliation. I want to tell you about how the CRRF was created, as I think this story connects well with tonight's theme on celebrating racial justice leaders across Canada. The CRRF was created by the Government of Canada as a Crown Corporation in 1996 as part of the Japanese-Canadian Redress Agreement, an apology to Japanese Canadians for racial discrimination and internment camps during World War II. The CRRF's mandate is to promote the development, sharing, and application of knowledge and expertise in order to contribute to the elimination of racism in all forms in Canadian society. From the Racial Justice Summit last week and tonight's celebration, the connections you've had over the last week are crucial and create an important space for anti-racism leaders to learn from one another, collaborate, change systems, and celebrate. As we look towards the end of the calendar year, this is the perfect time to reflect on our work and what we've done together. The CRRF is pleased to sponsor the work of UARR and the opportunity to celebrate the individuals receiving an award tonight. Congratulations. Thank you everyone for attending, and we hope you'll be inspired by the leaders honored tonight. Good night.
Thanks once again to the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, once again for being one of our platinum sponsors. Now, with that being said, I am pleased to present our first award of the night, the Creative Arts Award. Now, the 2022 Racial Justice Award for Creative Arts is presented to a phenomenal woman, Miss Coco Murray. Now, this is going to take a little bit of time from here. I know for a fact that this is actually a moment for me. The amount of work that I've seen this woman do over the years, the fan that I have been of this woman with regards to the impact that she's had with regards to addressing racial discrimination within the dance community and at the same time promoting Afro-Indigenous arts. It's extremely important to be able to have this at the center and being able to say that this is what kicks off the night. Well excited to do so. Now, a little bit about Colette Miss Coco Murray. She is an artist scholar, dance educator, cultural arts programmer, mentor, and arts consultant. This award-winning artist is the 2022 Women Who Rock Awards recipient, the 2019 Toronto Arts Foundation Community Arts Award, and Canadian Dance Assembly's 2013 I Love Community Award recipient for significant contributions in Toronto, working collaboratively with culturally diverse communities and creating access to arts and culture. Along with Miss Coco Murray, her mobile dance education business, which can be found at misscocomurray.com. Miss Coco Murray is the artistic director of Coco Collective, offering culturally responsive projects connecting participants, organizations, and schools to African and Caribbean arts. Murray's performance experiences include Caribbean folklore and West African dance styles over 20 years. Her sectoral advocacy for dance entrepreneurship and community arts extends to amplify Black arts and African diasporic dance styles. Murray was recently appointed as chair of Dance Umbrella of Ontario's board and serves on the national board for Canadian Dance Assembly and Arts Etobicoke's board of directors, offering an EDI and accessibility lens. Currently, Ms. Coco Murray is pursuing a PhD in dance studies, focusing on dance education and anti-racist dance pedagogies. Murray holds a Master of Education, an honors BA in race, ethnicity, and indigeneity from York University, and a sociology BA from the University of Toronto. As an emerging dance scholar engaged in keynote speaking, panels, and international conferences, she's published in dance media, academic journals, and professional teaching resources discussing Canadian African diasporic artistry and the importance of cultural arts education. And if you know Miss Coco the way that I do, this is the condensed version of the impact that she's been able to have. Everyone, please welcome Miss Coco Murray. Coco, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Esquire. And thank you to Urban Alliance and the board of directors for this surprising recognition. When I got the email, I was completely shocked. I want to thank my family, first to start off, for being an example of justice warriors and also paving it forward for others. I want to thank my chosen family of change agents for being a support system. I also want to acknowledge the ancestors, all of the African diasporic dance pioneers and the generations who have fought for spaces and for their artistic practices and against legislations just to simply dance. The dance industry has been a space where I was able to learn my creative abilities. And it was also a form of racial justice from the microaggressions and discrimination in places where I was the only one. In parallel, my lived experience in the arts has led to learning and unlearning of power dynamics to understand my privilege and where I and the dance communities that I am a part of have been disadvantaged. I want to thank my equity studies professors for articulating my voice so that I could stand intellectually and galvanize into an anti-racism role in the arts. So I shifted out of people's boxes of what they define to be a dancer to be solution-based. So the work that I do in education and academia, community, and the dance sector can continue to be about decolonizing, creating access, opportunities to collaborate, but also to educate, amplify, transform, and just creatively exist. So I'm humbled for this award, and I thank you all for this reminder to pause, rest, and celebrate the moments, as well as the amazing work of all the recipients this evening. Thank you, and Ashe.
Thank you so much, Ms. Coco. What an honor to have you here to accept this award. Next, we will be giving out the Justice Award to the National Council of Canadian Muslims. And we are very proud to present this award. A little bit of background. So in the summer of 2019, the government of Quebec passed a law called Bill 21. This law legalized discrimination against religious minorities by banning religious symbols in several public sector jobs, such as teachers, prosecutors, and police officers. To date, the biggest impact has been on Muslim women who wear a hijab. Since the day Bill 21 became law, NCCM has been challenging the law in courts, in parliament, and in public opinion. NCCM has filed its legal challenge against the law together with partners within 24 hours of the bill becoming law. The organization has been a critical voice in contributing to media discourse about the law and its impacts, and has been engaged in grassroots mobilization campaigns to strike this discriminatory law down. So congratulations to the National Council of Canadian Muslims. I will now pass the virtual mic to Karen to accept the award on their behalf.
Thank you so much. Salam alaikum, everybody. Bonsoir. Good night. My name is Karen Deveau, and I am a senior legal counsel at NCCM. We thank you very much for this award. On behalf of the National Council of Canadian Muslims, I'm extremely honored to be receiving this award tonight. I can tell you that every member of this organization has worked hard in advocating on behalf of Canadian Muslims and other minorities who have experienced violations of their human rights and civil liberties. Since 2000, the NCCM has challenged discrimination and Islamophobia. It has advocated for the public concerns of Canadian Muslims. To this end, the NCCM has intervened in litigation, has engaged in law reform and public education. Some of the work that NCCM has done includes making submissions in July of 2021 at the National Summit on Islamophobia. This was organized by the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth, and that brought together all levels of the government to work towards binding policy change. The NCCM has also advocated and continues to advocate for the amendment of the Criminal Code of Canada to create a standalone hate-motivated offense. We don't have that yet in Canada, so we're fighting to have that. And as you mentioned, Bill 21 is another example which highlights the work NCCM has done in making sure that all religious minorities living in the province of Quebec are not treated as second-class citizens, because this bill has effectively legalized discrimination by banning religious symbols in several public sector jobs. The government knew all along that this bill was discriminatory and that its violation of basic human rights would not be justified under the Charter. Thus, it had no other choice but to invoke the notwithstanding clause. Why? to preclude any judicial scrutiny, but it didn't work because the NCCM, along with other organizations, filed a legal challenge. And recently, the case was heard before the Court of Appeal. Now, no decision has been rendered yet, but until this bill is struck down in its entirety, the NCCM will not stop this fight, and we encourage all communities to come together and stand against Bill 21. As a colleague of mine once said, defending civil liberties for Muslims will undoubtedly lead to defending civil liberties for all. Again, I reiterate that everybody at NCCM is humbled and very appreciative, and thank you so much again for this award. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Karin. Definitely appreciate your words and the work that your organization does. And it is extremely important to understand the solidarity throughout the work that we want to be able to encourage as well. So once again, thank you and blessings to you and all. Before we get to the next set of awards, I'm excited to introduce our next performer of the night by the name of Chantel Soleil. Now, a little bit about Chantel. Chantel Soleil is a soulful R&B singer from the east of Toronto. Two different things that I'm actually very partial to. Her background in both music journalism and songwriting has helped her create her previous projects, and she hopes to put out an EP in 2023. So I'm sure we'll be able to be on the lookout for that. Again, beautiful people, please welcome Chantel Soleil to the virtual UARR stage.
Thank you so much. This is the second time that I'm performing since last year, so thank you for inviting me again. And also, I'm recovering from a cold, so bear with me, but I'm going to be singing one of my songs called Withdrawals, and it's going to be on my EP next year. No. You put me back together. You're fixing all my scars. You tell me that you love me. I feel it when you're apart. Tell me that you want this. Hold me till I'm blue. Always are so selfless. You're my home, I'm too. You calm down my constant mind. I tell you all the time, I'm thankful that you're mine. Usually I'm scared to try, but then you ease my worries. My fear is left behind. Boy, you fill me up. I've never felt this love before, and my soul has been touched. Who knew this was love? You put me back together. You're fixing all my scars. You tell me that you love me. I feel it when you're apart. Tell me that you want this. Hold me till I'm blue. You always are so selfless. You're my home, I run to. I wanna feel your cup, I wanna show you love, hey you. Give to me so selflessly the day that I met you. You lift me with your words, you're fixing all the hurt that they told me I should be used to. You put me back together. You're fixing all my scars. You tell me that you love me. I feel it when you're apart. Tell me that you want this. Hold me till I'm blue. You always are so selfless. You're my home, I run to. I wanna feel your cup, I wanna show you love, hey you. Give to me so selflessly the day that I met you. You lift me with your words, you're fixing all the hurt that they told me I should be used to. You put me back together. You're fixing all my scars. You tell me that you love me. I feel it when you're apart. Tell me that you want this. You're my home run too. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Chantal. I will be looking out for that EP, okay? I just added it to my little Spotify right here. That was
Thank you
amazing.
so much.
So after this great performance, I will like to have my executive director here at UARR, Nathan Shan, to give us some updates and some insight on what's going on at UARR right now. So over to you, Nathan.
Thank you, Jada. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. 2-3 months ago, when we were starting to plan this event, we were hopeful that we will be able to do this in person after a few years of doing this virtually. But unfortunately, the pandemic continues, and to be safe, we are here again on the virtual platform. So congratulations to all the award recipients. Hopefully next year at this time, we'll be able to gather in person. I just wanted to take some minutes to talk a little bit about the work that we're doing at Urban Alliance, so that one of the reasons we gather is also try to forge new partnerships, strengthen our existing partnerships so that we can do this work better. This work has to be done together. The magnitude of the problem that we are facing is so huge that we need to find our ways in working together and finding synergies to scale our efforts. So I'm glad that we have an audience here to talk to about some of the work that we're doing. Hopefully many of you can engage with us in the coming years. First of all those sponsors that you saw, we're very appreciative of their support, because through their support, our work continues to build and strengthen and expand. So thanks to all of the sponsors that have invested their funds towards the work and the mandate of Urban Alliance on Race Relations. A few highlight projects that I want to stress. One of the main projects that we're very proud is 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, we started the Muslim Youth Fellowship at Toronto City Hall with 15 young people starting the program. Now we have expanded that program, fellowship program at City Hall to include Black Youth Fellowship, Filipino Youth Fellowship, and Tamil Youth Fellowship. And in 2023, Chinese Youth Fellowship as well will be added. These are ways in which we are trying to change the face of decision-making at City Hall to make City Hall, a municipal government, become more accessible to communities in the city that have felt marginalized or disconnected from what the municipal government offers. So the program has gone really well, and the expansion has taken place and continues to build. And the city has decided to support the program more as they saw the benefit. I always say the young people aren't the real beneficiaries of this program. Actually, the municipal government is. When these young people, great, talented, enthusiastic, energetic young people go in there and do their work, ultimately the municipal government has become more reflective and responsive and relevant to our community. So this program is now being expanded. We have been in touch with Saskatoon, Edmonton as 2 other options to expand, Brampton as well, and Montreal. So next year in 2023, we will be going national with this program as well. We also took the success of this program from municipal government to other fields such as arts, recreation, environment, legal, and policy outside the municipal government, where there's severe underrepresentation of racialized communities in decision-making. So that program has expanded now, and another 50 young people are involved in it. So next year in 2023, we will have over 100 young people from racialized communities, particularly a majority of them would be from the Black and Muslim communities as well, in these positions. And we're hoping through this, both these young people get the talents and the skills to use their talents and skills, but at the same time, they become part of the decision-making on an ongoing basis beyond the fellowship. So that's one project we are hoping that many of you can engage us with. Another work that we've been doing over the last 2 years is around system change in school boards. We were able to impact change in 6 school boards in the last 2 years through the partnership we have with 4 different community organizations, with Ontario Alliance of Black School Educators, working with Black community, fighting for more accountability around how school boards deal with anti-Black racism. And some school boards have good policies, some don't have those policies, but even those who have policies fail pretty badly in implementation and accountability and measurement of progress. So we are continuing to push for accountability around those decisions and build for more community-led initiatives. So parents and youth are part of this organizing, and then with Council of Agencies Serving South Asian, together with National Council of Canadian Muslim, we were working with the Muslim community in Peel region to have the first ever confronting Islamophobia strategy passed as the motion, and now being developed as a strategy specifically, and hoping to have that also expanded further in other boards as well as at the provincial level. With the work we are doing with the Chinese Canadian National Council in Education and the Toronto chapter, we've been working with creating visibility around the issues that Asian students, particularly Chinese students, face in the school system. So it has been a challenge, but continuing to work closely in mobilizing the community to look at anti-Asian related interventions, but also looking at mental health and leadership support and reflective hiring practices when it comes to Chinese community. And last but not least, in the education sector, working together with the Tamil community, with Tamil Civic Action, in having genocide education as part of the curriculum, as part of the reflective, responsive nature in which schools support students who have fled a genocide. So that's in the education field. So those who are here, please continue to support and collaborate. We have been doing a number of professional development work with various institutions. One of them I will highlight is the University Health Network. Thousands of employees are going through in small teams of about 30-40 people. We've been doing professional development work over the last 2 years. It's a 5-year initiative so that we will have the entire system of healthcare workers in UH going through a strong anti-racist, anti-oppressive training, not just regular superficial type training. It's a deeper training that takes and professional development that takes care of, takes into context the historic disadvantage that racialized communities have faced in our society. Number of other unions and school boards and teachers groups have also been beneficiaries of this work as well. And finally, as I wrap up, there's a lot more. You can check out our website, urbanalliance.ca. We are working very closely on a number of policy initiatives, including policing, accountability around policing, alternative to policing, looking at reallocation of resources from policing into interventions that might be more early intervention and preventive side, and also having better crisis response in situations where racialized folks have mental health needs and don't have to deal with law enforcement punitive measure. Finally, an exciting project that we hope next year you will see more of is we are developing a virtual museum of racism and anti-racism in Canada that talks about the history of racism, incidents of racism in Canada, so that we are not always looking south of the border to think that we are immune or we're free from racism. The second part of that museum, virtual museum, is also the history of anti-racism movement in Canada, to document and share the work our elders and ancestors have done in Canada and appreciate and honor their work and build a record of that resistance in Canada as well. So these are very few things out of the many things we are doing at Urban Alliance. We are hoping all of you find ways to collaborate together. As I mentioned, a small dedicated team of staff who are here. Thank you to all of you for your hard work, but it would be great if we have more partnerships and collaborations in 2023 to scale up our efforts and also to make sure that that we make real progress. And I will finish with this because we cannot congratulate ourselves on progress because the magnitude of the problem that we are facing is huge, and we need to always contextualize our progress in the scale of what the issue is, and we have a long way to go. So let's take some rest. Let's celebrate these victories together, but let's also be mindful that there's a lot more work to be done, and let's do that together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you for that. We do have a lot of exciting things happening at UARR. I, for one, am very excited about the work that we do. So for our next award, it will be the Labor Award, and we're giving it to the Education Workers of Ontario. And just a little bit of background here. So on December 5th, Ontario's lowest paid education workers ratified their first freely negotiated contract with the Council of Trustees Association and the provincial government in a decade, with a record 76% of CUPE Ontario School Board's Council of Union members participating in the vote. The workers' new collective agreement contains no concessions and pay increase of $1 per hour each year for 4 years, more than double what the Ford government had briefly imposed. In early November, CUPE OSBCU workers withdrew their labor for a two-day political protest, uniting the labor movement to threaten a general strike. Education workers organizing and Fortitude compelled the Ford government to repeal this anti-worker Bill 28, an unjust law that preemptively used a non-withstanding clause to trample Ontarians' constitutional and human rights. So congratulations, education workers of Ontario, for this award. I think this moment is very important, and the work that was just recently done really has set the tone for a lot of work that needs to be done, and has really inspired us to know that community and coming together is incredibly important, and mobilization is important. So I'd like to welcome Jihan Bisnath and Yamaka Marin, who will be here to accepting the award on their behalf.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes? Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jihan Bisnath. I'm an educational assistant working in Durham Region. My employer, the Durham District School Board, is responsible for the education of 74,000 students at 136 public elementary and high schools in the rural communities of Brock, Scugog, and Uxbridge Townships, and the cities and towns of Ajax, Whitby, Pickering, and Oshawa, all east and northeast of Toronto.
My name is Yamilka. I am custodian for Lakehead Street School Board in the Thunder Bay area on the northwestern shore of the Lake Superior. My employer operates 22 public elementary schools, 3 high schools, and 1 adult education center, where more than 10,000 students learn. Jeham and I are so pleased to accept this award on behalf of our 65,000 co-workers throughout Ontario who are members of CUPE Ontario School Board Council of Union. Had been a permanent custodian at my elementary school for 9 years. I am working as supply custodian for 3 years before that, meaning I was assigned to many schools for short-term basic needed jobs. I clean classrooms, hallways, brushroom. I remove snow and salt sidewalks. I keep supplies, include soap and stocking. I am made sure the kids are safe and healthy place to learn. The flight my co-worker undertook this fall was one for fearless and for human rights as workers. Because we needed, everyone needed to pay more than $39,000 a year just to get back with the basics given the rising cost of the living now. My work is valuable. My co-workers' work is valuable. And what I'm learning this fall is this: workers standing up together can win. In fact, it's the only way when we'll win.
So I've been working with DDSB for over 10 years. I have 4 kids of my own. So doing this work is, it's more valuable than anything else. I do it because I love children. That's what turned me on to doing this job. It wasn't the money, because if I was doing it for the money, I wouldn't be doing it. I do it for the love of children. So my coworkers and myself, we're the backbone of public education. Like we all do this because of how we feel for the children and what we want to help them with. So without our work, without us, schools wouldn't run. It's been proven time and time again how invaluable we are, how valuable we are. It's challenging and it's dangerous as well. I work in a SSP class. It's a school support program. So that means that kids are with us half day, and then the other half of the day they work in a regular class. These days, as one of the fellow EAs from York Region said during a press conference last week at Queen's Park, things are as bad as they have ever been. Actually, I think they're even worse. EAs are exhausted. We're severely underpaid and unappreciated. We don't have time to do our actual job the way it's intended to be done because there's not enough of us. If we had 10 more of me in the school, we still wouldn't have enough. We have to spend the majority of our time focusing on helping kids regulate their emotions, and no time is actually spent on the academics where it should be spent. The emotional and physical abuse that we go through on a regular basis is something that deserves attention, and it should be dealt with now. But it's not. It's swept under the rug and it's not talked about. It's like this big nasty secret that nobody wants to acknowledge or say that's happening. I've worked in high school, kindergarten. I don't think that there's a grade that I haven't done. But until recently, the work my coworkers and I do largely is overlooked. And there are very few people that understand what we actually do. I was one of the worker mobilizers for CUPE 218. I was happy and proud to be involved in the work of my union and to be able to have a voice and to have it heard. Laura Walton, she's over there, our president, was talking about what's happening now, but it wasn't just politician talk. It's actually happening now. This dose of reality is so necessary, but knowing that I wasn't alone and knowing that I wasn't going through this by myself and that others felt the way that I felt, it meant so much to me. Understanding that it's okay to feel the way that I do, and knowing that I'm not alone, it touched me and it pushed me to do more and to want to be involved and have my voice heard. Our newly ratified agreement it's bittersweet. We do deserve a lot more. Children need a lot more, but it's an accomplishment because as Ontario's lowest paid educational worker, we got our first freely negotiated collective agreement in a decade. We fought back concessions and we secured a pay increase of $1 more an hour for 4 years. More than double what the Ford government was forcing upon us. We didn't back down, just like we don't put up with bullies in school. We weren't going to let Ford bully us. To conclude, I just want to say thank you again, and don't give up and don't give in. Stand together and stand strong. That's how I felt when this was happening to me. And even when things seem hopeless, just remember there's always a small light. Follow it and follow your heart. Don't give up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the impactful shares, Jan and Yamilka. I do also want to acknowledge as well, again, CUPE President Laura Walton, a lot of the news that was actually around the work that was being done in support of education workers was actually put through. It was encouraging to see when there was misinformation and disinformation around the fight that was actually there to be able to ensure fair pay was being brought towards education workers, that there was a level of consistency in the messaging that was being presented. So definitely appreciate the work that you and your union has been able to do. And here's to this being like a step forward towards finding the equity that's necessary within educational compensation for workers. Now, moving things forward, The next award that I have the pleasure of presenting is the Racial Justice in Education Award, which I'm pleased to present to the Toronto District School Board's Center for Black Student Achievement. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is the part where I'm going to be able to school you up on game. The Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement is a division within the Toronto District School Board with a team of staff dedicated to improving the experiences and outcomes for Black students, aiming to be responsive to the voices of Black communities who continue to advocate for systemic change within educational institutions and for dismantling anti-Black racism at the TDSB. Launched in 2021, the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement provides a variety of culturally responsive and educational programming for students, staff, and the Toronto community. In addition, an elaborate suite of professional learning opportunities and resources are available to staff to improve conditions and outcomes for students in their classrooms and school communities. As a quick aside, I've had the opportunity to be able to walk down the halls of the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement. It is truly a milestone, being able to actually be in a space where I used to grow up in Scarborough, Ontario, Canada, that Black empowerment within that space is extremely strong. And to be able to know that the commitment to the staff and the supporters around this work, even from the time that it launched, it was extremely critical that this was the step forward towards making sure that Black students are actually being seen, being heard, and being supported. So definitely thank you for the work that you continue to do. Now, accepting the award on behalf of the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement, we have Karen Murray, the System Superintendent for Equity, Anti-Racism, and Anti-Oppression at TDSB. We have Audley Salmon, the Associate Director, Learning Transformation and Equity, and Rachel Chernos Lynn, Chair of the Board and the Trustee representing Ward 11, Don Valley West. Welcome all of you and congratulations on receiving this award.
So I think I'm going to go first, but then my two colleagues who are really at the heart of this work, because I am really at the periphery, will speak. But I just want to say that I'm really happy to be here with everybody today and wish everyone a warm welcome. And I'd like to extend a huge congratulations to all the award winners, because it's certainly been a very, very impressive list so far, and I can't wait to see the rest. So my name is Rachel Chernos Lynn, and I'm the trustee for Ward 11, and I'm also very proud to serve as the chair of the TDSB. And I just want everybody to know that the Toronto District School Board is very committed to recognizing and embracing the diverse communities that make up our cultural fabric. Our multi-year strategic plan has a strong focus on Black student excellence, including improving academic outcomes and well-being for Black students. Professional development for staff that centers equity, anti-racism, and anti-oppression, and offering more engagement opportunities for Black students and our most valuable youth. This work and so much more has been the focus of our new Center for Excellence for Black Student Achievement. The center facilitates a more coordinated, resourceful, and direct approach to supporting Black students, their families, and staff from across our very, very large system. So I want to thank our students, our staff, and as well as our community members who continue to share their voice and help us to better understand the realities of Black students and their families so that we can better improve our supports, programs, and learning environment. And I hope that you find tonight's virtual event inspiring and insightful. So I would like to invite Associate Director of Learning Transformation and Equity, Audley Salmon, and System Superintendent of Equity, Anti-Racism, and Anti-Oppression, Karen Murray, who have been instrumental in the creation and development of the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement, and they will say a few words.
Thank you, Chair Chernos Lynn, and on behalf of the TDSB, we are so pleased to be here and appreciate this particular award. At the end of the day, so many individuals are behind the work that takes place in the center, and they are led by Karen Murray, the System Superintendent. It is outstanding work, it is groundbreaking work, and it is work that changes the trajectory of racialized and Black students across our system and frankly across this province and country. So the reality is it's those on the ground who've made a fundamental difference for our students and for our communities. And that's what I really want to acknowledge this evening. And I want to turn it over to Systems Superintendent Karen Murray, who has been the driving force and provided the leadership behind this outstanding team. Karen?
Thank you. And first, I just want to start by saying thank you to Urban Alliance on Race Relations and their board of directors for giving us this honor of this Racial Justice Award in Education. I want to do a special thank you to my team. The team is here. I want all of us to just give them a hand. You know, it's a hard thing for us to fulfill a promise of community. And a diverse Black community came to us in terms of a district more than a decade ago and asked us to create what is now the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement. And I'm so proud that we were able to fulfill that promise. And I know they watch us every single day and they ask us every single day to continue to do that good work. And nothing could be done without this amazing team. And so I want to thank the team. I want to thank my team for being groundbreaking, to being pioneers. If you do not know, the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement is the first of its kind in K-12 in public education in North America. And so that is a big honor and it's a lot of weight. And we couldn't do it without community, and we couldn't do it without the support that we get from community and our students. We also have students here tonight, and I want to be able to say thank you for joining us, our students who are here to represent. So as you heard, we're dedicated to improving the experiences of Black students in the TDSB, the diversity of what that looks like. We're responsive to community, as I shared, and we try to be advocates. And we make sure that we really focus on system change. And as we do so, we work towards dismantling anti-Black racism and its manifestation. But we do so by centering Black joy. And so I want to also give a thank you to our elders who hold us and ground us and remind us every day about the importance of the work that we do. This honor from this organization, which is also dedicated to transformative change and advocacy, humbles us, and I want you to know so. And I want you to know the difference that it makes that we have access to an entire district supporting us. Our board of trustees, our chair, as you see, is here with us, and our director, and all of those who support us across the district. But I want to, in my thanks, and I'm so honored to be here with all these other honorees for the evening. I want to end with our thank yous and our appreciation in a way that we end most of our conversations when we talk about the center. And most times we bring forward the Honorable Rosemary Brown and a quote from her. And so I wanted to end by saying this. She says, "We must open the doors and we must see to it they remain open so others can pass through." I am saying to you, we opened the doors because community saw the importance of what we can do and believed in our ability to do so. And we will remain open because organizations and community and the team here at the Urban Alliance and Race Relations saw that we can bring value, and we continue to do so, and we're committed to doing so for the future. So thank you, everyone, with appreciation.
Thank you so much once again, Karen, Audley, and Rachel, representing the TDSB and the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement. I do see, again, other individuals that have been connected. Again, shouts out to Rakia, shouts out to Tanitia, shouts out to Dr. Stephanie Fear, and anyone else that's been on the outskirts, being able to see firsthand that this has been such an impactful and a monumental opportunity for our community is extremely huge, and it cannot be understated. So thank you for everything that you do. We at Urban Alliance support the work that you do and look forward to connecting and collaborating in the future as well. So now, at this point, we have more incredible awards recipients to celebrate, but before that, we have another exciting performance. Our next performer coming to the Racial Justice Awards virtual stage is Jada Marley, who will be performing for us. A quick bio: Jada is a 21-year-old nationally acclaimed Afro-Indigenous poet, youth activist, and community support worker of Ojibwe and Jamaican descent, born and raised in Toronto. As a former competing poet, Jada holds the first place national championship title of Voices of Today 2018. She's the founder and creative director of her own open mic series, which first premiered in the summer of 2019, as well as the co-founder of the nonprofit movement, Not Another Black Life. She hosts her own workshop series entitled Between the Lines, which is a space created by her to empower BIPOC femme writers in the GTA who feel they need a space entirely crafted for them. She works diligently to create artistic and community-driven spaces within Toronto and beyond. Her overall goal is to educate and break barriers within racialized and underserved communities to help spark hope in young minds in order for them to change the narrative and use their creativity to take part in a more revolutionary future. Once again, coming to the virtual stage, Jada Marley.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Jada Marley, or I also go by the poet MJ, and I'll be sharing some poetry with you today. I'm just gonna blaze through these poems without really explaining them through, just because I know we're in a time crunch, and then I'll talk a little bit about them more at the end. This first poem is called The Caged Bird. I know why the caged bird sings. I know why she feels she conquers the mornings by merely existing. I know why she drinks tea for her bodily therapy and eats fruits to feel alive. I know why she picks up a pen when the weight of the world drags her down. I know why she lets herself cry in a world where vulnerability burns bridges. I know why in a world of grudges and forced karma, she chooses forgiveness. I know why her family sees her as the black sheep when she clearly has a pair of wings. Amidst all of the hurt, there is a reason why the caged bird still sings. Because one day her wingspan will widen enough to break those troubling bars, and she'll be soaring with her sisters into the wonderful night stars, and all of the words she hummed will be written in the clouds, way above the human nature of dragging her creations down, and the rest of the people who were othered here on earth will soar in the heavens with the siblings they were kept from since their birth. And the beauty of it all is there will be no cage where she migrates to, just everything she ever prayed for in a beautiful new view. Pathways. I didn't truly understand people until I started teaching youth how to write out their pain. We are constantly changing and forgetting, but a true educator can always match words to a face. And I will always remember how they made rhymes out of their hurt. I will always remember how they formed art of their traumas and liquefied anger into ink so that they could write haikus. I will always remember the way a poet can make death read like a reflection of life and tell the story of their lost loved ones better than the news. And I don't know if you have ever witnessed an angry child break a scoof face to smile, or be proud of something they have done, or shed a tear in the back room because they were taught to never cry in front of anyone. But there was nothing I appreciate more than ghetto youth becoming, because I remember how it felt when I became. And I saw the light in all the trauma I faced, and I headed on a new path that didn't force me to be ashamed of the place from which I came. A ticket to the revolution. I don't know where we are really from, or where my people's first drop of blood flowed, or where we have been, or where we are going. But I know the blood of our people is running through waters I've never swam through, on streets I've never crossed, in countries I've never been to, and in the faces of people I may never meet. I know the spirits of our people dance and pray over the paths that we walk on and the places they intend for us to see. I know the spirits of our people are still stomping out the fires of modern day white supremacy. I know that if you ever gave me a time machine, I would ask you if you could take me home. And I would ask to take all of my people there with me, to go back to the places where our mother tongues first broke through our teeth. Black people have been captured and shipped and sent out across seas. Now we are being trapped in the projects and being clipped of our wings. Mass incarceration and dying by police. We were stolen from our homes to build on indigenous territories, while the colonizers rested shady under stolen trees, plotting on how they would break the hands that feed. I wonder what my people are seeing and what they have already seen. I wonder how what we have gone through has created this fire inside of me. The Black youth have been telling me that the war will be over soon. And sometimes I find hope hard to hold on to, but then I hear them speak about how they are in the kitchen cooking up revolutionary recipes, on stage speaking words straight from their bloodstreams, in the workforce dismantling, in the classroom decolonizing, writing their own books for the melanated children after us to read. They tell me that the future is marinating in the palms of the original Mother Africa, and we won't need any other map but the creases in her hands and the guidance in her feet. And we won't need a clock where we are going because there's nowhere else to be. And we won't need money where we are going, so leave your wallets and come home. It is back to a natural life that doesn't work us to the bone. No more Babylon and no more pain. The Black utopia of our dreams is waiting for us once we escape the rat race, where we will return to the first soils and hear the first sounds of true peace and walk in harmony with the roots of our family trees. For generations, we have been traveling. Now it is time to get home. For generations, we have been building a society never meant for us. This time, we are choosing the places that we will go. Sunflowers. I want you to throw sunflowers over my grave. Don't listen to my mother. Don't listen to my father. They never knew me. Bury me on the gloomiest day. I hope I pass away in the spring in the same season I was born here. Tell everyone to bring their rain boots and dance in the rain like no one is watching. Do it because it's what I always dreamt of doing as a child. Do it because I couldn't. Tell me you love me and miss my poetry. Tell me you miss my poetry, but there's millions of little Black girls who write better than me. It's what I've always wanted to hear. And so this last poem, it's very short. I just want to give a small trigger warning to it. It does have mentions of mental health, suicide, self-harm, and things like that. It is dedicated to my cousin, who I recently lost to suicide. He was 17 in the summertime. And, you know, here talking today about justice, I want to also include mental health and Black youth and Indigenous youth in that conversation, because mental health is something that we are struggling to support in the society every single day. We see it in the spikes of violence. We see it in, you know, housing costs and food costs, and, you know, it's really affecting people. And mostly it is affecting the youth because, you know, either they're seeing their parents struggling or they're struggling themselves with nowhere to go. So I really want to dedicate this poem to him. His name was Keon, and I wrote this the day after his funeral. My cousin was laid to rest yesterday. I sat in the front row spinning a single blue rose back and forth between my palms. You only get one chance to make a first impression and one chance to say your last goodbye. This is the first time I've ever cried at a funeral. My makeup is full of tear lines, my hands feel numb, and no one has even muttered the word suicide here. But it's the only reason we've even gathered after all of these years. The white walls around us keep closing in, and I keep wondering what prayer I will say to lead my last words to him. No one says God's name here. Afraid of the religious consequence taking his own life may bring, but I hear church bells ringing and golden gates opening as the angels sing him into his new home. And I know we're not supposed to place blame, but I have a few fingers I'd like to point. Few people I'd like to tell they could have done more. I tell myself I could have done more too. But if death had a true sound, it would be silence. And the occasional ruffling of people trying to find tissue boxes underneath these beige chairs, it would sound like 17-year-old Black boys being laid to rest in baby blue coffins, and 21-year-old girls balancing blue roses with mortality blowing past them in the air. But no one would dare say suicide here. Wouldn't hand out cards with hotlines on the way out, just hope silently no one else's tragic day comes early. And in all of this thought, I find the words to my last goodbye. The serenity prayer seems fitting, because in this life we can't always wonder and ask God why. So God grant me the serenity to accept the lives I did not save, courage to save the ones I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so grateful to be in the presence of so many people who are doing great things. I want to give a big shout out to all the education workers who are working for justice and just better spaces for kids and also for workers altogether. It really spoke to me, the last people who were speaking. And so yeah, shout out to everyone. Thank you so much for listening to my work.
Thank you so much, Jada. That was powerful and vulnerable, and I applaud you for that. Wow, that was great. So our next award was the Government Award, and it will be given to Black Class Action. And Black Class Action is a non-for-profit organization that works to eliminate systemic discrimination in public and private sector institutions. The BCAS is a leading monumental legal action. Thompson versus Canada on behalf of all the federal public service employees in the Federal Court of Canada for systemic discrimination workers have faced. The intervention of the BCES has shone a national light on systemic discrimination in the employment in Canada, prompting amendments to the Public Service Employment Act to address discrimination in staffing, the most expansive view of the Employment Equity Act. The work the BCS also has an impact on the underrepresented groups, ensuring that no one is left behind. The BCS's advocacy is groundbreaking and is impacting thousands of workers across Canada and impact generations of workers to come. So congratulations to the Black Class Action, and passing it over to Nicholas Marcus Thompson, who is the Executive Director of the Black Class Action, will be accepting the award on their behalf. Over to you, Nicholas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jada. Good night, everyone. I am humbled to accept this award on behalf of the Black Class Action, representing tens of thousands of public service employees who have endured anti-Black racism in service to Canada. Joining me to accept this award is the lead counsel for the Black Class Action, Courtney Betty, and Director of our Quebec operations, Elaine Babineau, who is in the audience tonight. When we started this action, when we started this work, we did not know what the outcome would be or how far we would get. The only thing that was certain is that we had to act. And one thing led to another, and before we know it, a historic $2.5 billion class action was filed against the entire Federal Public Service of Canada, seeking long-term measures to combat anti-Black racism and systemic discrimination in a manner that has never been done before. We are talking about tens of thousands of qualified workers denied hiring and promotions for decades because of their race. The legal action has shaken the soul of the government, which quickly amended the Public Service Employment Act, as you heard earlier on there. It also caused the government to review and hold widespread consultation for the Employment Equity Act. And with sustained pressure, the commitment to create a mental health program ensued to address racial trauma created by the public service. But we know that to operationalize these changes, we're going to need sustained public pressure. We're going to need all of your help. Community organizations, religious organizations, universities, and labor unions. Labor unions particularly must play a leading role in this fight for justice on behalf of workers. And we're talking about workers that serve you every day, from workers from Service Canada, from immigration, to national security. And it's important to note that our pursuit for justice is not only helpful or in removing the barriers for Black workers, but it's also helping all of the underrepresented groups. And it goes to show that when in civil rights, when we win rights for those who are most impacted or those who are disproportionately impacted, how we win rights for everyone. So I want to take this opportunity to issue a call to action for your help today. And I want to really thank our legal team led by Mr. Betty. If you're in the audience here, if we can add him on to share a few words. I know he had a commitment at 7:30. I also want to thank Hugh Scher, Glenn Hotz, Mayor Mackey, Jeff Shiles, Sarah Francica. I also want to thank the following public service employees who have answered the call to action: Kathy Ann Samuels, Bernadette Becci, Wagner Celadon, Daniel Malcolm, Elaine Babineau, Marcia Banfield Smith, Monica Agard, Michelle Herbert, Dwayne Guy Guerra, Jennifer Phillips, Stuart Phillips, and Shalane Rooney. These brave public service employees answered the call to action and put their name to paper and standing up with this monumental legal action that is seeking to make our public service really diverse and representative of all of us. So I want to really thank the Urban Alliance on Race Relations for this recognition, for this really important recognition for the work that we're doing. As you see, I've donned out in my full like 10-piece suit here to accept this recognition. So thank you so much for this recognition, and really congratulations to all of the other participants. Mr. Betty, please.
Hannah, would you be able to?
You're still on mute.
Yeah, we'll have to make him co-host 1 second.
All right, I just want to thank the Urban Alliance. And I want to say just a few words. You know, there's a gentleman, his name was Bromley Armstrong, one of the founders of the Urban Alliance, who was just a mentor for me. And also want to recognize people like Dudley Laws, Charles Roach, Lincoln Alexander. There are many of these individuals that have been fighting the battles that we're fighting now. And they've won many of the wars, right? But it's not over as of yet. I want to thank Nicholas for his incredible commitment. I want to thank our legal team. You know, we brought 10 lawyers together. They're just amazing lawyers that came together from all different communities that decided that they were going to take on what is a monster of a legal battle. And the impact that we're making has been significant and will continue. And so I urge and recognize all the awardees, all the other individuals here tonight. We have a responsibility. We have a duty. Many that have come before us, they've been fighting these battles, and many of them have taken beatings, have taken licks. We have the opportunity to fight in a different way, utilizing our knowledge, our expertise, and technology. So very pleased to have been a part of this, and I salute all the award recipients, and we look forward to continuing working along with you in whatever way possible as we fight this battle together. We want a better Canada. Our forefathers have fought for it. We deserve it. Again, thank you for this award and this recognition.
Thank you both for your words. So it's now time to present our final 2 awards for the night. The first of these is the Migrant Justice Award, and we are honored to present this posthumous award to Paulina Corpus. So Paulina Corpus is known for championing and advancing community causes from arts and culture, education, workers' rights, and politics. Paulina's passion to serve the community continued even after immigrating to Canada. Her notable community work includes her campaign to run for Toronto Catholic School trustee in 2014. In 2018, she ran as council candidate for Ward 20, which is Scarborough Southwest. As a candidate, she provided a diverse perspective and rich experience as a woman of color, a social justice advocate, an entrepreneur, and most of all, a mother. Over the years, she continued her advocacies on behalf of the community. Paulina was president and co-founder of the Philippine Advancement Through Arts and Culture that funded cultural initiatives benefiting Filipinos, particularly the youth in both Canada and the Philippines. She has also co-hosted TV Migrant Canada, a program that focused on local and Philippine national issues that is accessible to viewers across Canada and beyond. Her community advocacy includes her work with the Filipinos Workers Network, supporting the Children's Rehabilitation Center Philippines. She is a member of the PIDC, the Philippine Independent State Council, Council of Leaders, acting as a press relations officer, and Women's Diversity in the CMC, which is the Canadian Multicultural Center of Asians in Ontario, and the president of the Filipino Canadian Parent Association in Catholic Education. Paulina was best known for advocacy to have the city of Toronto declare the month of June as Filipino Heritage Month, which paved the way for federal and provincial government to follow suit. Her journey started in November 2016 when she was first raised the idea with Ontario New Democratic Party members of provincial parliament and gathered signatures at various community events from June 2016 until August 2017. After gathering endorsements from 50 individuals and organizations, Paulina and Councillor Nathan Shan introduced the Filipino Heritage Month motion in November 2017, and the City Council passed the motion unanimously. So congratulations, Paulina. I will now pass it on to Ben Corpus to accept this award on Paulina's behalf.
Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Good evening to all. My name is Ben Corpus, the husband of Paulina Corpus. Thank you to all the Urban Alliance organization, systems and networks that support this great organization. Especially mentioned to our TDSB Nathan Shan for recognizing Paulina and her works. On behalf of my wife, Paulina Corpus, which representing our wide diverse community in GTA and the whole Canada, when she was alive, we always discuss and talk about, and accordingly, during our many discussions, that this type of award is for racialized workers who are in precarious situations, the caregivers, underpaid farm workers and the fisheries farms, healthcare workers, the educators, and any other unionized and non-unionized workers, and especially the youth who represents the future generation. Paulina was a champion against racism and currently implementing a grant project to combat racial discrimination under the Anti-Racism, Anti-Hate Grant Program, which is ARA. Unfortunately, my wife passed away on November 6, 2022, which is a month ago, and we're still in shock and grieving right now. Wherever is Paulina now, she is extremely happy and very appreciative for this milestone, Racial Justice Migrant Award. It is humbling also, since Paulina was not doing it for recognition, but it is the right thing to do, to give a voice to those who are not heard. So, mabuhay. There's a lot of work to do, and our children during the funeral, the church said, on behalf of my mom, Belinda, Isabella, and Benson, they will take the torch and move on for their father and for the community. So in solidarity, thank you for this award for my wife, Paulina Corpus.
Thank you so much, Ben, for your strength. Thank you so much for your words. We truly appreciate the impact that Paulina has had within the time that she has been here with us. And it's a testament to be able to understand the impactful legacy that we need to make sure is the goal within the work that we do, to make sure that there is visibility, that there are examples that we can actually look to in order to move this important work forward. And we stay humbled to know that Paulina is one of those statement makers that we can look to for that inspiration going forward. So Ben, thank you once again for sharing, and definitely we appreciate all of the work that your wife and your entire family has done within this work. So thank you. Now, with that being said, it brings us to the final award of the night. the Urban Alliance of Race Relations Agents of Change Award. I am humbled and honored to present this posthumous award to Sri Gugan Sri Skanda Raja. Now, affectionately known as Sri, worked tirelessly to end racial discrimination. He was an advocate and spokesperson in the field of race relations. He served as vice chair of the Ontario Human Rights and Pay Equity Tribunal and was a commissioner on the Royal Commission on Systemic Racism in the Ontario Criminal Justice System. He was vice chair of the Toronto Refugee Affairs Council. He was appointed a member of the Refugee Division of the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada. He played a key role in the community response following the arrival in 1986 of 155 Tamil refugees off the coast of Newfoundland. Among the community organizations he has worked with are the National Black Coalition of Canada, the Universal African Improvement Association, and the Black Resource Information Center. He was also a founder and long-term member of the Greater Toronto Working Group on Policing Multicultural and Multi-Ethnic Urban Communities. He was also a founding member of the Sri Lankan Family Services of Greater Toronto and served on its board of directors. He was also a founding member and served as a president of the Tamil Eelam Society of Canada. Sri was deeply committed to empowering young people and supporting them to challenge racism and discrimination. His commitment has been expressed through involvement in the John Brooks Community Foundation and Scholarship Fund, and helping to found and sustain Canadian Tamil youth development. In addition to these formal roles, Sri has acted as a mentor and invaluable resource to countless racialized young people over the years, from acting as a sounding board for academic and career plans to navigating the criminal justice system. Now I have the pleasure to pass the virtual mic to my fellow Urban Alliance board member, Kirk Mark, who will be accepting the award on behalf of Sri's family. Kirk, over to you.
Well, good evening and thank you so much, Esquire. It's always a pleasure. First of all, as Sri would often say in similar words, that we must give thanks and praise to our Indigenous communities on whose land we stand, for they've given us much so that we can prosper. And we know that if we're not part of the 800 plus Indigenous communities in the Americas, we're here either by force or through our own volition. Nevertheless, with the struggles that have been endured, we must keep our Indigenous communities in our prayers. And we see parallels with those struggles with those from racialized communities who have suffered various degrees of discrimination. I mean, when I look at, and I recall Sri and his involvement with the many organizations over decades, including the Urban Alliance on Race Relations, three words come to mind. 1, integrity. 2, passion. 3, commitment. And these three words embody Sri in all he did, with his legal mind and background and the way in which he was able to coalesce groups, working in cross-cultural sectors, effortlessly looking at some fundamental causes, intersection of oppressions, and working to alleviate some of those oppressions. It was always a pleasure coming to an Urban Alliance on Race Relations meeting or a Tamil community meeting at the old Scarborough Civic Center when he would have those in the 80s and the 90s, to hear him talk about ways of moving communities together. If it wasn't the Tamil community, it was looking at the African diaspora. If it wasn't the African diaspora, he was looking at the Indigenous communities. He understood what oppression felt like. He understood what oppression meant in terms of holding people back. He understood what oppression meant in terms of a legacy for those coming behind. And what he would try to do, and did it very well for the time he was on this earth, is move people together to work collaboratively on the central problem. And that's an interesting quality, because sometimes we get caught up, like from a sociological perspective, like crabs in the barrel trying to fight the same fight. No doubt, we all have our similar struggles, but we sometimes forget that we cannot do it alone, but yet we go ahead. But Sri always kept in mind that the struggle was not just about one group who was facing discrimination. He understood Eurocentrism. He understood white supremacy. He understood the impact of colonization on the other. And he realized that, there were many people who were othered and they needed to be affirmed. Their voices needed to be heard. And he did what he had to do in order to bring people together to work on these commonalities of oppression. And no doubt his partner today, must be quite proud. And she could not be here today to accept, and hence the reason why I'm accepting on his behalf. And, Sri, I know you're looking down at us today, and, we are with you, and I know you're with us in spirit. And thanks to the Urban Alliance for ascribing this particular award to Sri Guggen Sri Skandaraja, because he is deserving of it, even in spirit.
Thank you so much for your reflections, Kirk. And once again, showing true appreciation for the legacy that Sri has set forth for us to be able to continue. Now, as we wrap up, I just want to be able to congratulate all of the incredible award recipients tonight. One thing that really stands out to me is the amount of slashes that come between everyone's work when you end up seeing the multiple hats that all of the recipients wear, to be able to understand that there's different ways that you can actually address racial discrimination and racial oppression within our communities, and the importance of making sure that we're able to honor the different aspects. And that is what we wanted to be able to embody within this awards night. So hopefully the words that you've been able to hear will be able to inspire you to continue to fight racial discrimination in your own intersectional ways. Now I'd like to be able to welcome Hannah Medina, who is one of the program coordinators at Urban Alliance on Race Relations, to the virtual stage to just share a quick vote of thanks as we wrap up.
Thank you, Esquire. Good evening, everyone, and congratulations once again to our award winners. I would just like to take the time to thank folks that made this night possible and for your continuous support. First, I would like to thank our MCs for the evening, Beta and Esquire. Thank you so much for taking us to this evening in recognizing and celebrating the work of our award winners. I would also like to thank the award winners and folks who had accepted awards on folks' behalf for all your work in promoting racial justice across various fields and sectors and supporting communities and folks where they're at. I want to thank as well all of our incredible performers tonight, Sadia, Chantel, and Jada, for sharing your work with us. We really appreciate you taking the time. Next, I would also like to thank our UARR team that supported the coordination and made things run as smooth as possible tonight. Special shout out goes out to Neeson, Arusa, Alicia, and Therese. I would also like to thank our sponsors who have continually supported our work. And last, I would like to thank every single person here for taking the time to celebrate the incredible work of our award winners and for celebrating with us. We really appreciate you and hope you have a great rest of your night. And now I'll pass it back to our MCs to close out the night.
Thank you so much, Hannah. So once again, as we're wrapping up, just want to be able to say thank you and congratulations to all of the incredible awards recipients tonight. Thank you for all of the tireless work that you do in your variety of fields. And thank you so much for inspiring us all here with your journeys and your achievements. We at Urban Alliance on Race Relations stay honored to recognize the work that you do, and we stay encouraged to move this work forward with you in solidarity. And once again, thank you as well to the performers tonight for sharing your voices and making space for us to be able to share in your gifts and share in your talents. So that's it for me. Once again, I want to be able to pass it off so that way the final words could be there with my illustrious co-MC, co-host Jada. Final words, superstar.
Thank you all for joining us. It's been a pleasure. You all are amazing and inspire me every single day. Thank you for the performers with their vulnerable performances tonight. I love every moment of it. So thank you everyone for attending the 2022 Racial Justice Awards Night and celebrating the amazing achievements of everyone. And I wish you all a wonderful year and can't wait to do this again next year. And thank you, Esquire, for being such an amazing host.
Thanks so much. I got to try to catch up on Jada's like costume change situation. I needed to make sure I came through in my proper duds at the same time keep up with Nathan's sport coat. One of those two had to happen. So yeah, I'm just glad that I had the opportunity. Thank you once again. Be sure to be able to follow Urban Alliance on social media, get to know everything that the organization does. At the same time, continue to get inspired by the work that all of these amazing award recipients are continuing to do, and reach out to them as well to be able to see how you can find ways to contribute and move this forward to be able to make sure that there's true racial equity and diversity that is honored within the spaces that we work, live, and prosper in. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing night.